It's a real unique opportunity today because we celebrate this year the 50th anniversary of the Georgia Cotton Commission. I think that's really a milestone that we need to acknowledge for just a moment, and we'll talk about it a little later on too, I think. But I would recognize, I think we have 3 former members with us. I don't see them in the room now. Mr. Louis Perry, Mr. Paul English, and Mr. Marvin Ruark. I think they're all 3 outside. But we appreciate their work and dedication over the years, and it strikes me that as we struggle through hard times with prices and low demand and those things, these guys have seen the ups and downs for a long time and have come through them. So they supply inspiration to us, I think. Again, thank you all for being here. We'll start off today with Richie Seaton, the Executive Director of the Cotton Commission, to give a little bit of an update on the Commission's activities for the past year.
Thank you, Lee, and good morning. I add my welcome to each of you for our 8th annual meeting. Need to come up a little bit? Is that good? Okay, thanks. But I know, as Lee just said, there's some difficult times, but our commission, through y'all's financial support, takes your money and invested it heavily in research, also in organizations that will look towards and improve our lot, and hopefully our research program is definitely targeted towards helping you be more efficient and survive these tough times. But obviously this is our 8th annual meeting. I would like to, we couldn't have this meeting without our sponsors. We got a lot of good sponsors, and I, from the commission and certainly myself and our staff, I want to thank y'all for being sponsors and look forward to having y'all with us next year. And those of you here in attendance, please visit with them and find out the products that they have for us this year. Last year, I did a rundown for y'all of the different cotton organizations that we have, and one of the real concerns that we have is involvement. And I wanted to go through this just to tell you a little bit more about it. The Cotton Board collects your research and promotion checkoff, and those 2 members are appointed by the USDA Secretary of Agriculture. Cotton Incorporated, they contract with Cotton Board to do the actual research, promotion, and marketing of the cotton industry. And we have 7 members on that organization. We were actually able to pick up an additional member this year. The National Cotton Council, we have 4 delegates, or 14, pardon me. And Southern Cotton Growers, we have 6 directors. The Georgia Cotton Commission, we have 7 members. Last year we went from 5 to 7 because cotton is such a widely grown product in the state. And we also have an advisory board made up of 3 members. And as you can see, that totals up 39. We have 23 alternates for those different positions, which gives 62 places for folks to participate in the cotton industry. And it's very important that you get involved and stay involved. The members of the commission, if you're interested, any of you here who are interested, talk to the commission members, talk to the local cotton leaders in your area, call me. I can point you in directions, or any one of us, but we would very much encourage you to think about being active, because cotton's a very important industry, and we need a good cross-sectional leadership from the state. Our dollar per bale assessment, this just wanted to show y'all how your dollar's broken down. This is our fiscal year 14 and 15. The green is industry support. Those are the dues we pay on y'all's behalf to the National Cotton Council and Southern Cotton Growers. Research is 23%, and promotion and education is 7%, and operations are 14 to 16. So that's a quick snapshot of how your dollar is spent. In the research area, the vast majority of our money is allocated into the Department of Crop and Soil Sciences, and 9% in entomology, 5% in engineering, and 1% in economics. In 14, the commission funded $678,748, and that went into 20 projects. In 15, we were down a little bit because a couple of projects ended up, and we contributed $644,140 in 18 projects. We average around 20 projects a year that support 25 scientists plus various staff positions. We also support the county production meetings conducted by the UGA Cotton team, and this is something that the commission did long before I came along, and when we're making a tremendous investment of y'all's funds in research, you want to make sure that it gets out and gets to you, and that's one of our goals is to make our research easy for y'all to see and make it available to you. Here's some of the highlights: irrigation, drought stress, water use efficiency. We do a lot of work with resistant pigweed and management strategies, thrips, herbicide interactions, heavy rye cover crop, and all of our scientists are good to give us and y'all credit for funding our research. One of the things that we really ramped up in the last few years are our cotton variety trials. These are work conducted by Dr. Guy Collins and Dr. Jared Whitaker and various county agents across the state. Seed companies are asked to put forth their best varieties, and we plant them in different areas so that farmers can see how these varieties will perform in their actual location. One of the things that's been, I think, very helpful is the cotton variety performance calculator. Hopefully you'll see that. If you didn't see it in the breakout sessions, you will see it at your local county meetings, but it gives you a way to compare varieties, and you can see that it's quite a difference in variety selection, and you just got to figure out that one that works or those that work best on your farm. These are the counties that we do the trials in, and hopefully we can continue and expand that. Promotion and education. Last year we saw about 3,900 elementary school kids, and there's Chris Shimon, our Director of Public Affairs, who was hired back in March at a school. And over to your left there, let's see here. Excuse me. Left here is the cotton from field to fabric kit that we have, and we've did about 50 to schools this year, and we've sent out about 850 total, and they've gone all over the state. I know our local farm bureaus have them, extension offices have them, and we've even provided some to, I believe, the Illinois Farm Bureau a couple of years ago. So we do what we can with these to spread the message. Here's some of the different things we do. We participate in the Georgia National Fair, of course. That's where our office is, the Sunbelt Expo, and numerous ag awareness events throughout the year. We also are a sponsor of the Georgia Farm Bureau radio and television programs, and they do a good job for us in featuring cotton events through both their television, print, and radio outlets. And we also have a contract with Southeastern AgNet to give you timely updates on what's happening in the industry, notices of events that are important to our producers, and et cetera. And we also have done a real good job this year on getting our presence on Facebook, and we're averaging over 1,000 hits a week on that. Plus, we're fortunate that we have our quarterly newsletter published in the Southeastern Farm Press, and that's a great thing for us, and hopefully it works out good for the farm press too. Other historical dates: in 1970s and 68 through 72, we were in a range of having the lowest cotton acres we had, somewhere around 120,000 acres. The commission had an office up in Athens until 1973, and it was closed then. In 1994, the commission board of directors decided to establish an office in Perry, and fortunately I was hired for that. And in 1996, we moved out to the Agri Center, and we rent some office space there. In 2013, I mentioned already, we did add two additional board members as part of House Bill 298, and it was created. Also, it was under the Georgia ACC for Georgia Grown, so there's a commission for that too. Let's see if I can do some pictures here. One thing about one of the things that I think the Commission's been very proud of through the years is our support for 4-H. This picture here is a long time ago we bought cotton blankets for the 4-H camp at Rock Eagle. Another thing that we're very proud of through the 4-H program is the 4-H Cotton Bowl and Consumer Jamboree. This involves probably around 800 kids every year, and it teaches them not only about cotton, but it teaches them life skills, how to buy clothes, how to look for the right kind of values in clothing and whatever. Let's see here. We've had numerous field days and tours in the state. In 1994, one of the first things we did was have a funeral for the boll weevil. We had it at the Sunbelt Expo, and as you can see, we had a nice casket for it. It was a female boll weevil because the casket was pink, but we had a lot of good folks. Congressman Bishop, let's see, there's Mr. Sanders, the late Henry Reeves. We had a great crowd. Commissioner Urban. We had a good crowd of folks there, and it was a great fun event. And we were able to say goodbye to a pest that allowed us to really get back in the cotton industry and be where we are today. Let's see, over in the top corner there, we joined the other ag commodities in the state. That's the agriculture exhibit at the 1996 exhibits. And we've had hosted some staff tours. These are pictures of staff tours in the states. And let's see, there's some younger folks in there that are a little bit older now. See our good friend Jody Redding and Debbie Cannon from Senator Isaacson and Chambliss's office. And like I said, it's just, good pictures there. And up here, we had a multi-commodity education tour. The National Cotton Council puts this together with some of the folks out in the Midwest. One of the things that was behind this is in our last farm bill, farmers, no matter where they are, have a lot of common interest. And it shouldn't be that we should be against this group and they should be against us. We all have it. And by having these things, it's a good way for folks to understand each other, and they understand why we're asking. Last year, a group from Montana came down, and this year we went back up there, and I was having dinner with one of the participants and his wife, and she says, my husband came home and says, those guys down there, they need all the help they can get. They have to buy so much equipment and everything, and then you go up there and see them, and he showed us his equipment shed. He had 2 combines, 2 tractors, a huge sprayer, and a harrow. And that was it. He says, we don't farm intensively like you guys do down there. So, here we're building understanding of different areas and also made some good friends. Over here, we had a few years ago, we invited all the buyers of cotton in the Southeast to come down, and we took them on a tour. There they are, Steve Bullard's talking to them down at BCT Gin. There we are at the Sunbelt Expo with some, obviously, younger folks than now. And several years ago, a number of our ag groups went up and met with Governor Perdue to discuss our concerns and let him know that we had a lot of needs that we needed state dollars for. And, it's great that we can work together. One of the proudest achievements I think we've made is the construction of the microgen here in Tifton. What that does is allow our researchers and anyone else, companies, whatever, to run their cotton through a small gin. You can do small samples, but that is calibrated, and it works just like a big gin does. And so we're real proud of that. One of our former members, Johnny Noble from up in Dooley County, we got that free billboard on the interstate, and just last year I think they repainted, and it's been up there a long time, and nothing like having your name up there on I-75 where thousands of people can see you every day. It's one of our trips to Washington, and this is at the Morgan County Historical Society. We sponsored the exhibit, and this is an old cotton gin, and it's refurbished, and they did a great job on it. And if y'all ever have a chance, go to that museum. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in there, and most beneficial for you to see it. And anyway, that concludes what I've got to say. Visit us at our website and look at us on Facebook. We're doing a good job of hopefully giving y'all more relevant information. And I'd be remiss, Martha Harris is our office manager. Chris Shimon, he's our director of public affairs, and I couldn't do, and we couldn't do without them. I appreciate what they do for us, and your board of directors, they're to be commended because they spend a lot of time that you don't realize working and helping make our commission better. So we're in Perry. You see our contact information, and please call us if we can help you, and that's what we're there for. Thank you for the support. Now I'm going to call on Stephen Meeks to introduce our next speaker.
Good morning. Thank you, Richie. Well, excuse me. Everybody awake now? It's a pleasure to introduce our first speaker this morning. Mr. Ronnie Lee is managing partner of Lee Farms, a family farming operation in Brownwood, Georgia that consists of cotton, corn, peanuts, small grains, pecans, and cattle in Terrell, Lee, and Sumter counties. Mr. Ronnie also owns and operates McCleskey Cotton Company, a cotton ginning and warehouse operation located in Brownwood as well as Albany, Georgia. Mr. Ronnie has served over the years in various capacities. Since 2003, he has served as a delegate to the National Cotton Council as well as on the board of directors for Cotton Incorporated. More recently, he has taken a more active role in Southern Cotton Growers Association as a board member and American Cotton Producers, where he currently serves as vice chairman of the Farm Bill Policy Task Force. From 2005 to 2013, Mr. Ronnie served on USDA's State Farm Service Agency Committee as a committee member, and also, I do believe, several stints as chairman. He also serves on the board of National Peanut Buying Points Association as well as the American Peanut Shellers Association. Mr. Ronnie currently lives in Brownwood. He has 3 children that I believe are all involved in the family farming operation. And I was interested to know in his spare time, whenever that is, he does enjoy fishing, flying, and cooking. So without further ado, please welcome to the podium Mr. Ronnie Lee.
Good morning. This crowd is really impressive with the price of cotton today. So it makes me feel better because if you listen to the peanut people, they tell you we're not going to have anything to gin, but maybe we will. Just appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for this opportunity to attend your annual meeting and having a few moments on the agenda. As he said, I'm Ronnie Lee from Brownwood, Georgia, and farmer, ginner, and I also serve as chairman of the Southern Cotton Growers. Our organization, since 1964, 51 years, has represented every cotton producer in the 6 southeastern states, which is Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Before I go any further, I'd like to thank the Georgia Cotton Commission for not only their continued monetary support for Southern cotton growers, but also the many leaders that have served our organization with distinction. Others I wish to recognize: Chad Mathis, Stephen Meeks, Waver Robinson, Bart Davis, Mike Lucas, who currently serve as board members on Southern. Also, I'd like to welcome a newly appointed board member, Marvin Ruark. I'd also like to recognize former board member Lee Crumley from Brooklet, Georgia, who has been appointed to serve on Southern's executive committee as secretary. I'm glad that Lee agreed to do that, and he'll do a great job, as y'all know. Also, Bob McClendon, Louis Perry, Chuck Lee as past presidents of Southern Cotton Growers from Georgia. I wish to recognize Executive Vice President Richie Seaton, along with Chris Shimon and Martha Harris, who do an exceptional job of representing and promoting the cotton industry on many fronts, and as advisors to Southern cotton growers. Lastly, and most importantly, I'd like to thank you, the grower, for it is because you we exist. A few comments on the CCI annual contribution. For the 12th consecutive year since 2002, the Board of Directors of Southern Cotton Growers has again maintained their commitment to the Cotton Council International, which is the Cotton USA program, which is overseas market development arm of the U.S. cotton industry. Even in the midst of these tough budget times, the leadership has proved their mettle by contributing $80,000 or 20% of total dues collected for the 2015 budget. When added to past year's contributions, the total from Southern Cotton Growers to date stands at almost $1.3 million. The industry or private contributions are a key factor in determining to whom USDA allocates available public funds. And Southern Cotton Growers' contribution continues to help CCI immensely in this effort. The usual leverage of those funds from private contributions is 4 or 5 to 1. In other words, over the last 13 years, Southern's contribution has equated to an additional $6 million to CCI. Southern Cotton Growers is pleased to make this contribution on behalf of its membership and state organization affiliates, whose generous contributions enable us to continue this commitment. It gives CCI added resources to intensify their programs at a time when U.S. Fiber, yarn, and fabric exports are more important than ever to the cotton industry. I had the privilege in June of going to China with the council and seeing where some of that money goes, and I'm really impressed, and we do a lot of work overseas promoting our product, and these people couldn't do it without these funds. As stated in the organization's preamble, our mission is to work to maintain profitability throughout the Southeast cotton industry by whatever means available, a promise we intend to keep. We just had our annual meeting, and just recently concluded the Southern Southeastern annual meeting held in January 21st, 24th at the Westin in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Many of you that are here today attended the event last week. In addition to necessary business matters, some of the speakers included Anthony Tancredi, CEO of Allenberg in Memphis, Jordan Lee, President of Cotton Council International, and who also serves as President of the International Cotton Association. John McGuire, who is here today, and you'll hear from him in a minute, Senior Vice President, National Cotton Council, Washington, D.C. John has retired or is retiring, and John will make comments, I'm sure, about that. Barry Worsham, President and CEO of Cotton Incorporated in Cary, North Carolina. a discussion on new herbicide traits and nematicides available for 2015, and state support chairs from all 6 states met to consider possibility of pursuing a 3rd regional research initiative regarding cotton fertility. We've done some of these in the past and where all the states were involved, and it felt like it's time to do that again on something else. So we chose fertility. One other matter that came out of the meeting I wish to bring to your attention was the formation of a strategic planning committee. The purpose of this committee will be to review current company policy and to make recommendations to the full board on how to improve the effectiveness of the organization moving forward. It is anticipated that the first meeting of this committee will take place with a mid-year board meeting in July, and there will be 2 representatives from each state on that committee. And this was, I might say that this recommendation came out of a discussion with Georgia Cotton Commission. So we want to make things better if we can. Government Relations Committee, Southern Cotton Growers Government Relations Committee will have 30 grower leaders travel to Washington on March the 2nd through the 4th to discuss matters of importance to Southeast cotton industry with key elected officials and staff. Several of you here today will make this trip. In addition to the committee members, the officers of Southern Cotton Generals Association and state executives will also make the trip. One of the key issues that we know we need to go and really push for is the payment limitation issues that we're now facing with market loan gain and with prices where they are, and it's really a tough issue. And hopefully we can figure out how to do certificates or something to help. John McGuire will I'm sure will discuss this in his talk. I tell you, I've been told it's a lot more effective for Southern or the state people to go, the representatives to go and talk one-on-one with the people in Washington, because we're the ones voting for them, and so I think that means a lot. And I've been going 10 years, and so I've seen a lot of good out of it. The chain is no better than the power that pulls it. In our case, the power is our Political Action Committee. The Committee of the Advancement of Southeast Cotton, or CASC. The sole purpose of CASC is to support those members in Congress who are vigilant in their support to our way of life. As our major fundraising initiative in 2015, the 3rd annual reverse raffle was held in conjunction with our recently concluded annual meeting. The raffle was an immense success, with total funds raised exceeding our previous record by $15,000. In total, over $71,000 was netted for the Southeast Cotton Industry PAC. Kent Fountain of Screven, Georgia, was recognized as top fundraiser for CASC in 2013 and 14. Probably a good possibility he'll get that award again in 15, because he really works hard at this. But in closing, Southern Cotton Growers remains a strong producer, advocate, and 100% committed to the Southeast cotton industry. Again, thank you for this opportunity to be with you today, for your continued support of Southern Cotton Growers. I wish you all the best in the upcoming season. And I might make one more comment. We do need involvement in the industry, and the only way I can do what I do is because I have 3 sons at home that can carry on And when some of you that are in that situation and can serve, let somebody in the industry know, because we need good people representing us, and that will take the time to go to the meeting. I look at one right now, Bart Davis has agreed to be one of those people, and he's got 2 sons at home that can carry on, and we need more people like Bart coming along to do that. Thank you.
Good morning. I've got the opportunity and privilege of introducing our last speaker for the day, John McGuire. John was elected Senior Vice President of Washington Operations for the National Cotton Council in February of 2003. He has responsibility for coordinating the Washington activities of the Council, including congressional relations and working with administration officials with the overall mission of helping each of the U.S. cotton industry's 7 segments compete effectively and profitably in a global market. He is actively involved in policy development and implementation activities. John became a member of the Cotton Council staff back in 1979 when he was appointed Far East Director for the Council's export promotion arm, Cotton Council International, and that was based in Hong Kong. In 1983, he was named Director of Foreign Operations and an Executive Director for CCI. And in 1986, he became head of the Washington operations for the Council and was elected as a National Cotton Council Vice President 2 years later. Before joining the Council, John worked for the SEPEMA Association and the American Yarn Association after earning his bachelor and master's degree in textiles from Georgia Tech. John's a native of Augusta, and he and his wife Joyce have 1 son, Brian. And it's bittersweet having John here. As Ronnie mentioned earlier, we've only got him for about 2 more weeks before he retires. As a native Georgian, the Georgia cotton industry has always been special to John, and we've always appreciated the hard work he's put in for us up in Washington. I, like a couple others in the crowd, have had the unique opportunity of not only working with John in Washington, but coming back to the farm and working with him through the council. And I can't tell you how blessed we've been to have him representing our industry, particularly the Georgia cotton industry, over the last 30 some odd years. And our industry is in a great place because of John, and just can't thank him enough. So please join me in welcoming John McGuire up to the stage.
Good morning, and thank you very much for that kind introduction. And Mark, that was a very interesting presentation. That's a tough act to follow. As Matt mentioned, and I was thinking about it this morning, this will probably be the last Washington update I get to do because Mark Lang and I are retiring next week at the council's annual meeting. So it's really special, actually, to be able to do it in Georgia, in my home state. So thank you, Richie, for the invitation to be here today. Thank you to the commissioners for having me and for your continued support. Next week, Gary Adams, who was here last year, will become the CEO of the council, and Reese Langley, who I hope will be able to speak to you in the near future, will be my successor. The council's in excellent hands. They'll do an exceptional job, but they'll do a good job because they'll have your support and participation. So thank you very much for that. This morning I want to talk about Farm Bill implementation, the new Congress, and cotton's priority issues. On Farm Bill implementation, you all have probably been to numerous seminars. You've probably heard presentations on the new ARC and PLC, the new stacks and SCO, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of that other than to maybe give you a little update and remind you of some deadlines. I do want to spend a minute, it was mentioned this morning, Ronnie mentioned payment limitations. I do want to spend a second about payment limitations and the challenge we have, especially since some of you may be going to Washington soon, and the rest of you I need to be communicating with the Georgia delegation on the challenges we face. And then we have one more piece of this Farm Bill yet to be announced, and that is the Secretary is required under the Farm Bill to make a new, to publish a new definition of actively engaged in farming, particularly a definition of active personal management. So I want to touch on that. Crop insurance decisions, you know, this Farm Bill is full of decisions for you as producers to make. On crop insurance, you're going to soon need to determine what your underlying coverage is going to be. You're going to look at the various products available to you and the coverage levels. And then you're probably going to look at stacks or SCO for cotton. The closing date for stacks is March 15th. The projected price, we're in a very critical time right now because the price that's going to be used to calculate the coverage available through stacks and SCO is the average of a December 15 futures market close from January 15th to February 14th. So we're in that period right now. You also are going to be able to add a protection factor. I have some growers who say, I'm not quite sure about this new product, and so they're going to want to put their toe in the shallow end of the pool. They could take an 80% coverage. There are others who are going to say, I want the max I can possibly get, and they're going to take theirs up to 120%. And a lot of this is going to be based on your coverage and your tolerance for premiums. And then you're going to have a harvest price option, which those of you who have been buying revenue coverage in the past are familiar with. In a year when the price might go up, the harvest price option gives you an interesting opportunity to increase your coverage if prices do increase during the season. On ARC and PLC, you've got some deadlines coming, and I'm sure most of you have already been talking to your FSA offices. You're going to have to retain or reallocate your covered commodity bases and update your payment yields on a crop-by-crop, farm-by-farm basis by February 27th. One new feature, which hopefully you've started to look at, is you're going to be able to use your RMA, your yield data as you reported to RMA, to update your yields for PLC and ARC if you so choose. And RMA and FSA have created a unified database that you can go to and look county by county. Now, it gets complicated when you've had farms that have been divided. You've got different units, different measurements, so you're going to have the help of the FSA folks to walk through this process, but I think you're going to be pleased to be able to use this yield data. By March 31st, you're going to need to elect to be enroll in ARC or PLC on a crop-by-crop, farm-by-farm basis. And remember that all the producers on the farm have to concur in that decision, or there are no benefits for that crop for 2014, and you're automatically enrolled in PLC for 2015 and beyond. Sometime after April 15th, you're going to actually sign up for the 14 and 15 crop programs. And one thing about this farm bill that's a little different is we're going to have annual sign-ups rather than signing up one time for 5 years. And there are a number of reasons why that's important, and it's to your benefit to do that. And then for those covered commodities that earn a PLC or an ARC benefit this year, those payments will be made sometime after October 15th of this year. Payment limits, and hopefully a lot of people in this room don't have this problem. I feel like for the last 35 years, every year I've talked about payment limits because cotton, rice, and peanuts are tremendously impacted by payment limitations. It's a difficult issue. It divides small and large. It brings in regional considerations. But at the end of the day, this farm bill has a new provision, and that is Congress decided to provide a $125,000 limit, but that includes your PLC and ARC payments for your covered commodities and any marking loan gain or LDPs for the covered commodities and for cotton, because the cotton marking loan is still in effect. There is still a separate limit for peanuts. We're able to preserve that. Now, from a congressional standpoint, this is an attractive approach because it gives you a larger limit than you've had in the past, but now we're going to bring in your marking loan gain and your LDPs into that $125,000 limit, which is going to put pressure on you as growers to figure out how to allocate this, and it's going to put pressure on USDA as to how to maintain the records and keep you advised. So we were concerned when we saw this because we knew that if cotton prices went below the loan or any other commodity went below the loan, you were going to be putting multiple payments into one limitation. So unfortunately right now, the world price for cotton this week is $45.59. So you have a 6.41 cents LDP and marking loan gain, and there's actually been an LDP or marking loan gain in effect for quite a number of weeks. If you were to use your entire $125,000 limit, that covers only about 4,000 bales. So most people say, well, that's pretty large and I'm okay. And then some people say, well, I've got multiple entities and so I'm okay. But at the end of the day, just keep in mind that if you've requested an LDP on any of your 2014 crop, that LDP is being charged to your $125,000 limit for the 2014 crop. If you redeem your cotton, or if you're sold a 605 and your merchant is redeeming cotton during a period when there's a marking loan gain, or your co-op is redeeming cotton during the period when there's a marking loan gain, that marking loan gain is being counted against your $125,000 limit. Now, keep in mind that in October, if you have on that same farm corn or soybeans and they earned a payment, they earned a benefit under ARC or PLC, whatever that payment is also going in to the $125,000 limit. So the concern is USDA can't tell you where you stand. And during the Farm Bill debate, we explained to members of Congress, USDA can't provide a grower real-time information about where they stand relative to the limit. So we have the limit. USDA has to administer the limit, and so we've been working. The council and the cooperatives and the merchants, GINs, have been working with the department. We have a designated liaison, and they're trying to come up with a way to give you more timely information. But the truth is they don't have the capability or the capacity for the 2014 crop and probably for the 2015 crop to give you real-time information. So if you exceed the benefits on the $125,000 limit through a combination of your marking loan gains and your ARC and PLC payments, then sometime in March of 2016, you're going to get a letter from USDA that says you've earned benefits beyond the $125,000 and you have to repay those limits. One of the things we're talking to the department about is that growers possibly might want to go into USDA to an FSA office in August or September and say, where do I stand before you start to issue ARC and PLC payments, in case some growers don't want to receive overpayments and be forced to repay next year. We don't know whether USDA can do that, but we're working with them to see if they can do it. The long-term solution from USDA's perspective is to come up with a system that will give you real-time information so that when you have a bale of cotton redeemed or when you request an LDP, they can tell you. Frankly, my preference and what we started working on at the end of last year when we saw this is, some of you recall, we had marketing certificates a number of years ago. You could use a certificate to redeem a bale of cotton or any other commodity, and because of the way that transaction is handled, the marking loan gain on that commodity did not count against your limitation. That's basically the way to solve this, because we're very concerned about marketing, the marketing decisions you make as you move forward, and your willingness or unwillingness to forward contract cotton when you don't know whether the person who's buying the cotton from you, when they're going to redeem it, and whether you're going to earn a marking loan gain against that. So the council is working directly with USDA to try and come up with the real-time accountability, but our preference, frankly, is to work with Congress and hopefully get legislation in place that would provide you the opportunity to use certificates. This is not an easy thing. We just came through a 3-year Farm Bill debate. This is a highly emotional issue. There are members who feel very strongly there should be a $125,000 limit. We worked pretty hard through last October, November, December. We made some progress, but it's going to take you telling your members of Congress the challenges that you face as a result of that limit. I can tell them all day long, I'm your lobbyist, they expect to hear it from me, but when you go up and say, here are the decisions I'm faced with and here's what I may do, and it's going to disrupt orderly marketing and it's going to cause forfeitures, then the message is going to get through and people are going to be concerned. One other thing that we fought very hard against is you have enough, a lot of people seem to think that farmer shows up at the FSA office and says, I'm a farmer and I'm eligible for benefits. They don't think about all the hoops you jump through to qualify as actively engaged in farming, to be eligible, and then to have to deal with the limitations. So there was a pretty active debate during the last Farm Bill about people who felt that management is not a legitimate contribution to the health of the enterprise, and which I find interesting, because we talk about people working from home, we talk about modernization, and yet there are people who think that if you don't drive the tractor every day, you're not actually contributing to the farming operation. Yet you have people that are making marketing decisions, that are keeping the books, that are making very important management decisions that they don't seem to think count. So the Secretary has been instructed by the Congress to publish a new definition of active personal management. Remember, in order to be actively engaged in farming, you have land, capital, equipment, and management or labor. In this case, he's been instructed to change the definition or propose a new definition of active personal management. the knee-jerk reaction of most people who are not familiar with farming is to put a number of hours on or to have a residence requirement. We don't think that the Secretary is going to go that far, but nonetheless, what this means is if you're actively engaged in farming now and you've gone through that process, it may be that when this new requirement is published, we'll comment on it and we'll try and moderate it as much as we can. But for 2015 crop, you may have to go through a different actively engaged in farming determination. So that's something that you need to watch. We'll watch and we'll be commenting on. A word about the new Congress. You follow this very closely, I know. You know the House is now controlled by the Republicans as well as the Senate. There are 58 new members of the House. And again, when we talk about coming to Washington, we talk about education. Those new members have new staff. They're on new committees, and we have to educate them on what the key decisions and issues of interest to the cotton industry will be. On the Senate side, the Senate is now controlled by Republicans 54 to 46. One thing that's significant when you look at it from my standpoint as a lobbyist is there's only one Democrat in the Cotton Belt, Texas East, which means when you look at the makeup of the Senate Ag Committee, you're not going to see any Cotton Belt Democrats when you look at a lot of the committees. So it means that the Republicans like Senator Perdue, Senator Tillis, and others, Senator Isaacson, are going to be very critical to us, and they're going to have to carry a heavier load as we work through this. We've got good representation on the committees, and as we talk about some of the issues, I'll reference those. The House Ag Committee, there's new leadership. Mr. Conaway from Texas is the chairman. The good news for us is Mr. Conaway his district is the second largest cotton producing district in the United States. Mr. Peterson from Minnesota, who's been the ranking member for years, has a soft spot in his heart for southern commodities, mainly because he likes to hunt and fish, and he spends a lot of time in the South, and we encourage that. Mr. Adderholt from Alabama is the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee, and you'll see in a minute why that's important. Mr. Farr from California is his ranking member. On the Senate Ag Committee, Senator Roberts is the new chairman of the Senate Ag Committee. That's a historical thing because Senator Roberts becomes the first person who's ever chaired the House Agriculture Committee and the Senate Agriculture Committee. And Senator Stabenow, who's been chairwoman of the Senate Ag Committee, now becomes the ranking member. Mr. Moran from Kansas, fortunately for us, Kansas is now a cotton-producing state. Mr. Moran's very pro-production agriculture. He'll be the chairman of the Ag Approach Subcommittee, a very key spot for us. And I know as I've done this over the years, people wonder, well, why go through all these details? And part of it is that you need to see where your strengths and where your weaknesses are as an industry, and those are the things where we focus on. So, for instance, it's good to know that Mr. Conaway has a lot of cotton producers and is from a big cotton district. It means that you can spend more time on some of the newer members. It means that the newer members can go to him and get information on cotton. So these are, as you look at strategy and trying to get things done in Congress, that's why it's important to know where the committee leadership is, not just where your individual member of Congress is. On the congressional agenda, things that we hear that the new Congress wants to focus on, there's an objective to have a budget resolution that would balance the budget in the next 10 years. Budget reconciliation, which is a difficult thing to explain. The challenge there is once you write a budget, if you have to change programs in order to achieve those savings, then you get into existing farm laws. So, for instance, when the budget reconciliation process rolls around, your staff is going to be working hard to make sure that people recognize the last farm bill saved a substantial amount of money and that you've made contributions to budget reduction, and therefore agriculture shouldn't be hit yet again for budget cuts. The debt limit is going to have to be increased in the spring. You can have a lot of philosophical discussions about the debt limit, whether it needs to be done or not. It's going to be a debate, and people are going to use it to debate the budget and the deficit. Appropriations are very important to this industry. And I know a lot of people hear about the evils of earmarks and why those aren't a good idea. In our case, in appropriations, those annual appropriations bills or discretionary funding are what provide funding for research, which Mark has talked about and Richie's talked about. Boll weevil eradication, we're almost finished eradicating the boll weevil in the United States. We're down to a few counties along the Texas border. We still get some funds for APHIS to help us with the eradication program. If we ever had a reinfestation, we couldn't duplicate what's been done with boll weevil eradication. And it's really fun to come to Georgia and talk to young farmers who say, I've never seen a boll weevil, why am I paying this assessment? Well, there's a reason. It's because people before you had the foresight to say the eradication of the boll weevil will bring Georgia back into cotton production. We have 3 gin labs that do important research for gins, Stoneville, Lubbock, and in New Mexico, Mesilla Valley. Those are funded annually through the appropriations process. And Cotton Council International has been mentioned. We appreciate the support that Southern provides and the participation. That's your export promotion program, one of your export promotion programs in addition to Cotton Incorporated. And the appropriations process can reduce those funds or provide those funds. And cotton is the largest recipient of funds through the market development programs run by USDA. Regulatory relief, everywhere I go, everybody you talk to, they want to talk about regulatory relief. It's a top priority, but it's a very difficult legislative issue to achieve. So there are several priorities we have there. Immigration, I can't tell you what's going to happen on immigration in this Congress. I don't know what the approach will be. Tax reform, there is an interest in reforming the tax code. People, I think, particularly in business and you in agriculture, are tired of year-to-year extensions of Section 179 expensing and bonus depreciation and some of the estate tax issues. It makes it difficult for you to plan. Everybody knows that you need a more permanent solution. Whether this Congress can undertake something of that magnitude, I don't know. Trade, I want to spend a little bit of time at the end of the presentation talking about Trade Promotion Authority, which many of you know as Fast Track, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership are going to be things that are going to be debated pretty soon in this Congress. What are the Agriculture Committees going to do after they've finished a 3-year debate on Farm Bill? They're going to focus a lot on oversight. They're going to bring USDA up and RMA up, and they're going to ask a lot of questions about how this Farm Bill has been implemented. That gives us opportunities as well in things like actively engaged in farming to ask questions about what the department's doing. There's going to be an evaluation of nutrition programs. We're spending $80 billion a year in nutrition programs. 1 in 4 Americans receives benefits. Both Senator Roberts and Chairman Conaway have said if we're spending $80 billion, we need to look and see how we're spending it and can we do more for less. Commodity Exchange Act, which governs trading, is up for renewal, so that's going to be a discussion. I think there are about 5 people on the planet that understand derivatives, but somebody's going to have to debate this and reauthorize this legislation. And then for the Ag Committees, you'll hear a lot of the members talk about environmental regulations, and you'll hear a lot of them talk about trade, and the committees can have hearings, but the truth is that that's not where the jurisdiction is. And on trade, I would simply mention Senator Isaacson is a member of the Senate Finance Committee. Jody's here, and we're going to rely heavily on Senator Isaacson this year because there are going to be a lot of things in finance, trade-related and tax-related, that we're going to be talking to Senator Isaacson about and asking for his support. In fact, at a hearing yesterday, he asked some very pointed questions about China's cotton policy, which will be very helpful to us down the road. Our priorities: Farm Bill implementation, making sure that stacks, SCO, and crop insurance are available to you at affordable prices, that the ratings are there, that the options are there for you. We talked about limitations and eligibility. We talked about appropriations. We want to make sure that we get the funding for the cotton pest to finish the boll weevil program, maintain the gin labs, and keep CCI in business. Also on regulatory issues, Richie covered this very well. I think everybody is concerned about weed resistance. We know the cost and the damage that's being done. We have worked very closely with Dow and Monsanto. We're working with EPA and USDA trying to get these new resistant varieties out and available to you. The regulatory process is just extraordinarily slow, and we continue to work with them and with the agencies. Waters of the U.S. is an issue that's bigger than all of us. It's the priority issue. Farm Bureau is taking the lead on that. Farm Bureau, manufacturing, everybody's been working. I don't know that we'll have legislation that prohibits EPA from going forward, but I think that you'll see quite a different proposal than the original EPA proposal. And then we have some other issues, NPDES, endangered species, and GMO labeling, which are all being debated in Congress as we speak. I like to finish on trade. We haven't talked a lot about trade other than me coming for the last 10 years and talking about the Brazil case, which has been resolved. And now I feel like that we need to go on the offensive. There's some things that need to be addressed in world cotton policy. One is China's policies and the implications for world markets. We have an anti-dumping case that's been filed by Turkey that I want to give you a little background on. And then India is quickly becoming the largest cotton producing country, and the way they market has significant impact on markets. The way they release their cotton to the world markets has an impact on prices. So why is trade important to cotton? I think you know this, but I did this in South Carolina Monday, and somebody came up to me afterwards and said I didn't know a couple of those things. So maybe it's worth looking at. Over 85% of our cotton production needs to be exported. And I say that because we've been doing pretty well, but this year we're probably going to fall short of 85%. And when you look at the balance sheets, you'll see why it's critical that we achieve those export targets. The other thing that's important to know, and especially in a state like Georgia where you have spinning industry and where your best customers are located, is that pretty much 85% of all the U.S. cotton that's sold domestically and spun into yarn and fabric is then being exported. So we're exporting cotton in the form of raw cotton, and we're exporting cotton in the form of value-added products. And so those manufacturing jobs that are here are dependent on trade. Looking at the U.S. balance sheet, two things we're to look at. First of all is mill use, which is down dramatically from 20 years ago, is gradually coming back up, and I think that it's positive. And one of the things that's helped is you supported an economic adjustment assistance program that was put in the Farm Bill that benefits the textile mills. They're very appreciative of that and very supportive of it, and I think it's made a difference. It's allowed them to make some investments, hopefully. And then the export number, as you can see, the number this year is 10, and we heard Anthony Tancredi on Saturday at Southern Southeastern make the case of why it may stay at 10, but why it could go to 11.5. And that slight shift could make a huge difference in what we're looking at this spring. And I bet Don Shirley talked about that at the breakout session. So who are your export customers? China has been your largest export customer, and that's why it's so difficult to criticize China's cotton policies, because what we're going to talk about a country that has been buying a tremendous volume of your cotton. But the other country that people are not necessarily aware of, Turkey, has become your number 2 export customer. They're taking 20% of our exports, and we account for 50% of their imports. And we have a trade issue with Turkey that we're going to have to resolve. And then Vietnam and Mexico are quietly important. I mentioned Vietnam because I'm going to talk a second about trade promotion, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And we have an issue with Vietnam that we're going to have to work with our textile industry on. So China's role. China is the largest producer. China produces 27% of the world's crop. They're also the largest spinner. They consume 33% of the world's mill use. They account for 33% of the world mill use. They're also the largest importer, or have been up until this year. They've been importing about 30% of world trade. And the biggest challenge we have is today China holds 60% of the world's cotton stocks. So most merchants will tell you that they get up every morning to see what China announced the night before, because right now that's what matters. What is their policy? Since 2011, China has been purchasing cotton from their producers at prices well above world prices, but they've been putting it into a strategic reserve. And they've been importing cotton at the same time. This year, they have implemented a target price program for some of their growers in the western area and a direct payment program for some of their growers in the eastern area. They've built a strategic reserve that's now 60% of world stocks. But again, in criticizing that, remember that a good bit of that strategic reserve holds cotton that's imported from the U.S. So it's sort of inexplicable. The Chinese are encouraging their producers to produce. They're buying it, they're putting it into reserve, and yet they're still importing cotton, and they're building this huge stock. And they've gotten themselves to a point where they've got to figure out how to liquidate the stocks, and that's going to be our challenge going forward. It's hard to explain to people in Washington, but what the Chinese have actually done with this policy is they're buying cotton at high prices from their farmers, they're putting it in a reserve, and they're making their mills use cotton out of that reserve, and the mills are paying a higher price for cotton than the world price. So what's happened is that actually kills demand, because what does a mill do when they're forced to use a raw material that's not world competitive? They shift to man-made fiber. So that's a very difficult thing when you sit down with a member of Congress or somebody in the administration and say, I've got a problem with China's policies because they've been buying our cotton and putting it into reserves, which has propped the world price up, but now it's got to be liquidated. And by the way, they're one of the largest consumers of cotton, and they are discouraging their mills from using cotton. Then you've got a challenging problem. The other thing, as I mentioned, is it's not clear to us how they're going to liquidate. They're not very transparent in their policies. So what can we do? Well, for the last 2 or 3 years, we've had to kind of stand by, because the merchants, the co-ops, and even you would say, John, don't go send the U.S. government to complain about the Chinese buying 6 million bales of U.S. cotton. It is the market. And that's a perfectly normal and reasonable attitude. But now you've got a country sitting on 60 million bales of cotton. They've created programs that exceed what their commitments to the WTO are. Here we are as an industry that were challenged for doing that very same thing. So we've begun to press USTR to go to Geneva and use every resource possible to insist that first China report what they're doing, and second, if they're exceeding their WTO commitments, that they've got to discipline those programs. That's going to take time. But like I mentioned, Senator Isaacson yesterday sort of got the ball rolling with Ambassador Froman. We have an ambassador in Geneva, Ambassador Punk, who is fantastic, and he's been questioning the Chinese publicly. There's a lot of press today about his activities. Will this yield results in the short term? No, but it's something that has to be done, and it's going to require sustained effort. The second trade issue we have is with Turkey. And remember, I mentioned Turkey is now your second largest export market. They buy 2 million bales of cotton a year and are growing. Turkey has filed what's called an anti-dumping case, and what Turkey's claiming, or what the government is claiming, is that U.S. exporters are selling cotton to the Turkish mills cheaper than they sell cotton to U.S. mills. U.S. anti-dumping has nothing to do with subsidies. It's all about business practices. They filed that case on October 18th, and since then our exports to Turkey have essentially dried up. And the reason for that is if you're a mill in Turkey and you're buying U.S. cotton, and your government files a case and says, we may put a special tariff on the cotton that you've purchased from the U.S., so now your cost of cotton has gone up 4, 5, 6, 8 cents, you're going to be very reluctant to buy U.S. cotton. Our concern is they're going to look for alternative suppliers. The Turkish mills will tell you they like your cotton, but you all know that if you lose a market, it's really, really hard to get it back. So if this isn't resolved pretty quickly, we're going to lose a very important market. As I mentioned, what they're saying is we're selling it cheaper to them than we sell it domestically. And if they prove that, then they can put a tariff on to raise the price to what they think is more reliable. We believe it's politically motivated, and we have good evidence of that, because this is the first time the Turkish government did this. The growers didn't ask them to do this, and the mills certainly don't want them to do it. We also know it's a weak case. Our U.S. exporters and cooperatives have already responded through questionnaires. They've detailed the way they do business. They've explained to the Turkish government how they sell, and their job is to get the best price for cotton, not to sell it at below market prices. So we think it's a very weak case. The problem we think is the U.S. uses these cases frequently, and the steel industry is one of the beneficiaries of that. The United States filed and has applied a duty on Turkish steel that comes into the U.S. The Turkish minister said basically for every dumping case the U.S. files, I'm going to file 3. And so he filed the cotton case in October, sort of out of the blue. So what are we going to do? The first thing we've had to do is retain U.S. and Turkish counsel. That costs a lot of money and a lot of staff time, but this is your second largest market, and we've got to make sure this doesn't happen. We've asked the U.S. government to intervene in every possible opportunity in every forum. Members of Congress, at our request, have sent letters to Ambassador Froman and to the Turkish ambassador explaining the importance of the trade relationship and the fact that this case has no merit. And we're prepared and have submitted lots of data in response to the case to make sure that the Turkish authorities, if they're going to do this in a fair way, have the data that's necessary. And if there's a hearing in Turkey, we're prepared to go and testify on the industry's behalf. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make sure that while this case is going on, Turkey doesn't apply interim duties and totally disrupt trade that's already occurred. And second, we're trying to make sure that this gets resolved quickly so there's no more long-term damage. There has been damage already. So it's a significant issue, and it's a significant factor, and especially with the situation with China, now with your number 2 market also being in question, it puts more pressure on us to make sure that we're active in the trade world. Just a mention of India. They've become a large producer. India has an interesting way to market cotton, to export cotton. They retain their cotton and make sure that their domestic mills have access to it first, and then they announce they're going to release cotton onto the market. They're carrying significant reserves. Yesterday they started to liquidate those reserves, so that has an impact on the markets short term. One other thing I'd like to just touch on, and that's trade agreements. The good thing is that with the exception of China, India, and now the Turkish anti-dumping, since cotton is an industrial raw material, most countries don't have the sort of barriers that you see for some of your other products, like whether it's poultry or beef or other exports. We enjoy pretty good access to most markets. The U.S. textile industry, I mentioned, is exporting a significant amount of yarn and fabric. They rely on hemispheric agreements, and I know for the first 20 years of my career, you didn't come to Georgia and talk about what a great deal NAFTA was, because everybody in the audience had somebody who used to work for a small apparel operation, and I get that. But the truth is what's left of the U.S. spinning industry, which is incredibly capital intensive, is there primarily because they've formed partnerships with customers in Central and South America, and they're able to compete with Chinese imports through that combination of using U.S. yarn, knit somewhere and sewn, and then comes back into the U.S. duty-free. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, which you hear a lot about, involves countries. It's a NAFTA-like approach where the idea is that countries will provide preferential access to each other's products. The challenge for cotton is, unlike other commodities, is Vietnam is a part of the TPP, which is a little bit interesting that you have a centrally planned economy as part of a free trade agreement, but there are other strategic interests there. Our concern, and the textile industry's concern, is Vietnam is saying, we're a part of the TPP, we'll give you access to some of our agricultural markets, increased access to our agricultural markets, but we want a better deal for access to the U.S. apparel market in return for that. That makes cotton the ham in the sandwich, because I've sat through several meetings where the Vietnamese ambassador turns to my colleagues in pork or beef or soy and says, we're a big deal and we'll be a bigger deal, but the only reason we're in this negotiation is because we want access to the U.S. apparel market. And I have to sit there and say, you've already got 17% of the U.S. apparel market. You're the fastest growing supplier to the U.S. apparel market. If you just have the same rules that everybody else has in the other free trade agreements, you're a big winner. But just to warn you, as you go and you listen to presentations, cotton has to look at trade policy a little different than some of the other commodities. Not every trade agreement is automatically favorable for us. We have to make sure that it's a good agreement before we can support it, and we have to make sure that those folks who are buying 3.8 million bales of year cotton and rely on exports are getting treated fairly through the negotiation process. So we're generally favorable towards Trade Promotion Authority and towards the TPP, but until we see the final agreement under TPP, the Cotton Council is not out there saying that this is a great agreement and we support it. So where are we on trade? We've got to stop the Turkey anti-dumping first. We've got to win that. We want to challenge China's reserves and domestic support and make sure that if they liquidate those stocks, they do it in an orderly and transparent fashion. We are going to watch India very carefully and make sure that they're not violating their WTO commitments. And we want to preserve the benefit of the regional trade agreements we have. And if trade agreements are expanded, we want to make sure that our textile industry is treated fairly. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you, as always, for the opportunity to report. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of the program.
Thank you, Richie. I'd just like to make a comment about some of the quality of our leaders that Lee Crumley addressed a little bit earlier. We've got some of the best leaders, I think, in the world in our cotton organization.
And I know, and I hate to call names, but I remember in 1986, I was with a group that went to Washington, and John was just getting to going then, and as head of the Washington Division of the National Cotton Council. And some of you older guys out there remember, we had a hurricane that came through and just devastated our cotton crop in November of 1985. And it was amazing for us to watch such a young man as John then do the fine job that he did in escorting us around Washington, getting us to see the various senators and the various representatives that we needed to see, and it was a positive trip, and there was some good that came of it. And John, I know you probably remember that well, and it's been a long time ago, but and it's been, I know you've had it's been a journey for you through these years, and 30-some odd years that you've been there. But you've done a remarkable job, and it has not gone unnoticed. And thank you so much for a job well done.